Hi guys, welcome to Mrs. Contreras Space. I'm so glad you tuned in. So today we're going to be reading a story called Chester Raccoon and the Big Bad Bully. So remember, as we're reading the story, there's these things that we're going to be looking for. We're going to be looking for who are the characters in the story. We're going to be looking at where is the setting taking place and what is happening. So remember, it's who, where, and what. So let's get started. Chester and the Big Bad Bully by Audrey Penn, illustrated by Barbara L. Gibson. Chester Raccoon stood in front of his tree hollow looking gloomy. His younger brother Ronnie and his best friend Cassie stood beside him. "We don't want to go to school," Chester told his mother. "We want to stay home with you. Please, may we stay home with you?" "I thought you liked school," said Mrs. Raccoon. "We do," said Chester. "Then why do you want to stay home with me?" Chester lowered his head and shuffled his foot. He explained in a quiet, muffled voice. Mrs. Raccoon reached out and tenderly lifted Chester's head with her hand. "What did you say?" Chester gazed into his mother's loving eyes and gulped. "There's a bully at school, and he's horrible," cried Ronnie. "He's big and he's mean and has giant claws on his hands and feet," wailed Cassie. "And fangs," screeched Chester. "And fire comes out of his nose. And if you get in his way, he'll step on your face and squash you like a bug." "Like a bug?" echoed Ronnie. "Ew, that bully looks really, really mean and ugly." "Oh my, he sounds very scary," said Mrs. Raccoon. "Bullies can be very difficult. I'll tell you what," she told them. "Frightened cubs, I'll walk you to school and back. Then we can decide what to do about this bully." When the raccoons reached the school tree, Chester tugged on his mother's arm. "That's him. That's the bully," he pointed with a trembling finger at the badger standing by the pond. "Isn't he awful? Isn't he the most scary-looking bully you've ever seen?" "He does look kind of scary." "Oh my, yes," whispered Mrs. Raccoon, "but I'm sure we can work things out." Before leaving, she gently fluffed Chester's mask and playfully tweaked Romy's nose. "Be brave," she told the cubs, and gave each of her sons a comforting kiss in their palms. So their mommies gave them all a comforting kiss. After school, Chester, Ronnie, and Cassie told Mrs. Raccoon how the badger bullied his classmates at recess. First, he snatched away the ball away from the squirrel and popped it. Then he climbed atop the jungle gym and squashed the possum's finger until the possum fell to the ground. Then he spooked a doe who bumped into the skunk, who got so scared that he sprayed and stunk. Even Owl Teacher couldn't get him to behave. This is really a mean bully. He's making people upset and he's hurting their feelings. "Sometimes animals are bullies because they don't know any other way to be," explained Mrs. Raccoon. "But I think there's a way you can change things. Go get your friends and bring them to our tree. I want to share a story." Boink. Careful not to hurt their paws, the animals carried the stone to the center of the forest and placed it atop a tree stump where everyone could see it. "Perhaps the stone is blue because it popped out of the ground too soon," suggested a fox. So the animals waited and watched for many days and nights to see if the blue stone would turn yellow. But the stone remained blue, and its outer shell remained sharp and pointy. That's the blue stone, and they were talking about how it's remaining sharp and pointy. "I believe the stone is blue because that is the color it is meant to be," said a very wise snake. Therefore, we shall treasure the blue stone for the color that it is. But if we want to hold the stone, as we do our yellow stones, we have to work together to smooth out its outer shell. So first the woodpeckers took turns chipping off the stone's sharp, prickly points with their beaks. Then the chipmunks rolled the stone with their noses, while other animals shined and buffed the stone with tree bark and fluffy tails. In time, the blue stone was as smooth and shiny as the yellow stones. Mrs. Raccoon smiled down at the young animals listening to their story. The badger at your school is just like that blue stone, she explained to Chester and his schoolmates. He is a badger, and that is the way he is meant to be. But if you work together, I think you can smooth out his bullying ways. The next day at school, when the recess bell rang, all of the animals went outside together. Oh, here are all the animals, and here's the big bad bully. They huddled close to one another and walked toward the bully in one great, big, confident pack, with Chester in front holding a ball. At first, the bully looked at them with a twinkle in his eye, thinking, I'll get one of you. But as the pack got nearer and nearer to him without a hint of fear, the badger's expression changed. His eyes widened, his jaw dropped open, his knees grew weak and wobbly. Suddenly, it was the bully who was scared. He began to whimper and squeal, and he thought, they're coming to get me back. But there was nowhere to run. He just stood there with his back up against a tree as his schoolmates drew closer and closer and closer. He looks really scared. Finally, Chester was nose to nose with a trembling badger. He narrowed his eyes and looked as serious as a little furry face would allow. Then, without hesitation, he held up the ball, looked straight into the bully's eyes, and asked, Want to play? Huh? The surprised bully stopped, shaking. He looked at his classmates who were laughing and offering friendship. You want to play? You want me to play with you? He squealed with delight. He gently looked at the ball, took the ball out of Chester's hand. Okay, he told them, I'll play. So in one short moment, the badger softened and the bully became a friend. The badger didn't need to bully anyone ever again. Chester glanced toward the wooden path and saw his mother watching and smiling. She placed a kiss in her palm and showed it to her son. Chester did the same and joined in the fun. The end. So now, let's talk about our questions. So, who are the characters in the story? I'll give you some think time. Yes, you're right. Chester the raccoon and all of his friends and the big bad bully. Where is this taking place? Where does the story take place? I'll give you some think time. You're right. In the forest, in their school, and in a tree, because their school was in a tree. So what is happening in this story? I'll give you some think time. Yes, you're right. There's a big, big bully who's hurting people, and he's hurting others, and he's hurting their feelings, and he's making everybody really scared of him. So that's not good. It's not good to be a bully. And at the end, what happened? They all became friends. They didn't want to be mean to him. They all got together and they wanted to be friends. They wanted to play together. And that's the lesson of the story, boys and girls. We shouldn't bully others. We all should be friends and all work together, because when we work together, we can accomplish a lot. So remember, No matter where you are, at home or at school or wherever you go, be a good friend to others. Be kind, be loving, and share. And everybody can have a great time together. So bullying is wrong and we shouldn't do that. So remember, be kind to one another. All right, well, that's the end of our story. Thank you so much for tuning in.